In a moment, you're going to be doing a short survey that's going to help you to understand your strengths. Now, I have no question that you will already know some of your character strengths, and some of this will come as no surprise to you, but one of the really nice things about using a tool like this is sometimes there are things about you that are brilliant that you think everybody else just does all the time. But in reality, it's actually one of your strengths. So the idea or the model that we're using is called the VIA character strengths. So let's just go with VIA strengths. Now, one of the interesting things about this model is that it has an awful lot of components. So I want to break this up for you a little bit so that you can kind of, so that you can get your head around what these components are. Now, it has a total of 6 kind of core ideas. Now, the first idea that we're talking about is this virtue of wisdom. So the first component is wisdom, and it's got 5 different areas within it. So 5 different characteristics within it, but we'll get back to that in a minute. The second component of the second area is this area of courage. The third is this kind of vaguely described area of humanity, but we'll make more sense of that in a minute. The fourth is justice. The fifth is temperance, which is an old word, but we'll get back to that in a bit. And the sixth is, arguably a horrible word, transcendence. Some of you are thinking, yes, I am transcendent. We don't need to do this test. Transcendence. So each of you are going to end up getting scores in each of these areas. Now, what you will find, whether you like it or not, is that you're going to be low in some things and high in others. And while it's great to kind of look at the things that you're low in and go, oh, maybe I want to improve that, what we're really focused on for this course is really for you to start thinking about how do you utilize your strengths rather than focusing on your weaknesses. You can work on your weaknesses later, but the purpose of this is really to help you to identify your strengths. So let's narrow right down to wisdom. Now, we all have a bit of an understanding of what wisdom is, but this idea of wisdom has 5 different components. Now, one is creativity. Now, creativity is your original, adaptive, you're a problem solver, you see and do things in different ways, okay? So if you're high in creativity, that will be a description of you. Another is curiosity. Some of us are just naturally curious. We're interested in things. I know lots of people that are really, really interested. They're open to new ideas and they like exploring new things. Another that we often doesn't sit together with these 2 areas of creativity and curiosity is this idea of judgment. But when it comes to wisdom, the ability to demonstrate good judgment is really important. So a critical thinker, thinking with an open mind. A love of learning. Close to curiosity, but really this is the person who likes to learn new things, really enjoys developing new skills, not scared of kind of feeling stupid in the middle of that. And perspective. So you're going to get a score for each one of these things. Now, for some of you, have a think about whether you think you're going to score high or low on any of these wisdom factors. Creativity, curiosity, judgment, love of curiosity, and perspective. And you can already see that having curiosity, for instance, is going to influence the kind of work that you're going to do in a project. And that's really important to understand. Now, courage is an interesting one. Now, courage obviously includes bravery. We often use this term of valor, doesn't shrink away from fear, speaks up for what's right. Some of us are too brave. Perseverance. This person just keeps going. They're stubborn and determined, industrious. They finish what they start all the time. Honesty. which I think is an interesting one because sometimes it takes a level of courage to demonstrate honesty. So they're authentic. You know that what they say is definitely true. They're trustworthy and sincere. And finally, this fantastic word that feels like it belongs in a cookbook is zest. And this is someone who's enthusiastic, energetic, doesn't do things half-heartedly. So you get a sense of a person who's high in courage is going to be all of these, the combination of all of these things. Now, humanity is kind of what it's talking about, I guess. It's not a great descriptor, but it's this idea of the connection to the world, the people. So we've got this idea of love. Now, we bandy this around, but this is this warm and genuine. They value close relationships. This is the person who, when you're with them, you feel like you're the center of the universe. We've got the idea of kindness. They're generous, nurturing, caring, compassionate, altruistic. They do things that are actively generous, I guess. And then this funny term of social intelligence. Now, someone that's socially intelligent is aware of the motives and feelings of others. They understand the temperature of the room. They know what makes others tick. Now, often neighborhood house coordinators have fairly high social intelligence because they're working with people all the time, so they've got really good social intelligence. Now, the virtue of justice. This is an interesting one. So firstly, we've got this idea of teamwork. Now, by now, you should have awareness that teamwork is going to be absolutely central to your success. This person that's good with teamwork is they're a team player, they're socially responsible, they're loyal, they care about the people that are there, they work together. A person that's high in justice is also high in this idea of fairness. They are just. They don't let feelings bias them. So they're likely to kind of make a decision that costs them personally because it's fair. So they're fantastic for making decisions around things that are fair. This is a really important person to have on a team and to give a level of influence in that process. And finally, we've got this idea of leadership. Now, someone who has a strength in leadership, they organize group activities, they encourage a group to get things done. So this is a person who's happy to stand at the front and say, okay, come on, it's great that we've had a cup of coffee. Let's get to work. Let's achieve something here. So these are these ideas of justice. So leadership, fairness, teamwork. Now, temperance will make more sense when we describe its characteristics. So firstly, we've got this idea of forgiveness. Now, some of you might be thinking, what on earth does forgiveness have to do with group work? But the reality is, or teamwork and project-based stuff, the reality is that somebody is going to offend you and you're going to have to forgive them. That's important. So this person, a person who's high in forgiveness, is merciful. They accept that others have shortcomings. So we all fail. We all stuff things up. I do. And they give people a second chance. So this is not the person who would write you off the first time you don't respond to their text message within 20 minutes. This person will forgive you and continue giving you second chances. Person who's high in temperance is this idea of humility. Now, humility is a really interesting one, and arguably in our culture we don't hold high value for this, but they're modest. They let their accomplishments speak for themselves. So we've all met the opposite to this, the person who bounds into the room and says, I've done this and I've done that and I've done this. And then we find out later that really they're probably not as good as they think they are. A person who's humble or demonstrates humility is someone who just comes in and does the work and they let those accomplishments speak for themselves. We've got this old term, we've got a few old terms in this model, of prudence. So prudence, a person who's high in prudence is careful, they're cautious, they don't take undue risks. Now, for those of you who do like taking undue risks, a person who's high in prudence can be challenging to work with, but in reality they're the best thing you could possibly get. Because a person who's high in prudence weighs things up. They're careful about things, and that can be really, really important in project work. And finally, we've got self-regulation. Now, self-regulation, person that's high in self-regulation is self-controlled. They manage impulses and emotions. So this is not the person that flies off the handle when things go wrong. They're self-controlled. They try and understand more things. They self-regulate all the time. So really, really important contributor. Now, finally, this seemingly magic idea of transcendence. They have an appreciation of beauty and excellence. So this is the person who's going to notice when things are beautiful. They're high in gratitude, which is a fantastic characteristic on a team because you want someone who's going to go, oh my goodness, isn't this good? They're thankful for the good. They express that thanks. They don't just let things go. They go, oh my goodness, thank you, Jane, for doing that. That was brilliant. Absolutely loved it. And they feel blessed. So blessed is a funny term, but basically they live life. We've all met these people. They live life and they think, geez, my life is really good. Things around me are really good. These are fantastic people to work with because they're constantly demonstrating that gratitude. Really important characteristic in leadership as well, because the gratitude that we demonstrate to one another has important implications for the way in which they work. Hope. Now, hope is so important in community work because we are hoping that we get beneficial outcomes, but we can't always see them. So this person is optimistic, they're future-minded, but they have a really positive outlook. This is a favorite of mine, humor. Now, we might not think that humor is that important in project work, but I can assure you when things go wrong, humor becomes very important. And when things are stressed, having a laugh is one of the best ways to solve this. So they're playful, they bring smiles to others, they're lighthearted. This can become really, really important. And then finally, not something that we tend to associate with project work, is this idea of spirituality. Now, this isn't the same as religiosity or those kinds of things. They're not mutually exclusive, but it's the idea that this person would search for meaning, they feel a sense of purpose, and they sense a relationship with the sacred. Now, that might sound a bit weird, but there's all sorts of different ways to express that, whether that's through religion or through the garden or through all sorts of different things. But this person has that kind of overarching meaning. And you can imagine that can be quite important. So, my goodness, we have this incredibly large model, and what's going to happen is you're going to do a test, and it's going to give you a score in each of these areas. And so you will go through and you'll get a score for, not so much for wisdom, but for the different factors of creativity, curiosity, judgment, love of curiosity. Love of curiosity, I don't think that's correct. Love of learning, my goodness. Love of learning, not love of curiosity. And perspective. So courage. Do you think you're a person who's high in courage? Someone who demonstrates bravery, who shows perseverance, their honesty and zest? Humanity. Are you the person that people want to hang around? Do you have high social intelligence, kindness and love? Justice. Are you big on teamwork skills, leadership and fairness? Temperance. Do you demonstrate forgiveness? Well, this is a tough one. Self-regulation, humility and prudence, and then finally transcendence. So these, transcendence seems like a grab bag of a bunch of different things around humor, appreciation of beauty, spirituality and gratitude. Now, when you're thinking about your teamwork, understanding your own strengths will help you to make decisions around where you're best placed in terms of what your strengths are. So really you want to be building on these strengths. If you don't have a strength in leadership, then, not playing that kind of leadership role can be really, might be a good decision. But choosing the areas that are really going to align with your strengths will enable you to really enjoy the work that you're doing, but also understanding the strengths of your colleagues is also really important. For instance, you might be a person that comes in talking about all of your strengths, but then you look around and there's someone there who doesn't talk a great deal about their strengths. Recognizing that as humility and as being something that's really, really valuable can be really important. So, as we get stuck into the next stages, which is where you're going to do this quick measure, it will give you some scores. And look, I hope you find this really useful. I certainly did. And let's chat soon. Catch up.